Dominic heard the first note long before he ever saw the man who played it. It cut through the narrow hallway like a secret meant only for him, sharp enough to stop his breath and soft enough to unravel something he did not even know was tightly wound. He froze outside his apartment door, keys in hand, as the music spilled out from across the hall. It was raw, imperfect, alive. Something in it woke a part of him he thought he had buried for good. Dominic had just moved into the building 3 days earlier. He worked in marketing at a tech startup downtown, lived by a color-coded calendar, and spent his nights convincing himself he preferred the quiet. Life was a checklist he followed without question, one he believed kept him safe. But the music ruined all of that. It forced him to feel. When the final note faded, he let out a breath he did not know he was holding and slid his key into the lock. The bolt turned halfway before a door creaked open behind him. He glanced over his shoulder. That was the first time he saw Brady. Brady leaned against the doorframe across the hall, a guitar slung over one shoulder, his hair tousled like he had just run his hands through it in frustration or passion or maybe both. There was a dangerous softness in the way he looked at the world, like he felt everything too much and refused to apologize for it. Dominic blinked once, twice, forgot to breathe again. Brady smirked a little. Sorry, the walls here are thin. Hope I wasn't interrupting anything important. No, Dominic said, trying to sound normal. You just surprised me. That's all. Brady tilted his head, studying him like Dominic was a chord he was trying to figure out. You just moved in, right? Yeah. Dominic cleared his throat. Dominic. I'm Dominic. Brady pushed away from the doorframe and walked toward him, steps slow, deliberate, almost like he was keeping rhythm with something only he could hear. Brady, he said, sticking out a hand. Dominic shook it. Warm, firm, steady in a way the rest of him wasn't. Nice to meet you, Brady said, eyes flicking briefly toward Dom's mouth before settling back on his eyes. If the music gets too loud, just bang on the wall. Or open the door and yell at me. Whichever works. Dominic tried not to show how that suggestion landed somewhere low in his stomach. I don't think I could yell loud enough to compete with that guitar. Brady grinned. Then I guess I'll have to teach you. Dominic laughed, surprising himself. It had been a long time since he laughed like that. Too long. Brady stepped back, hands still gripping the neck of his guitar. Good night, Dominic. Good night, Dominic echoed, even after Brady disappeared inside and closed the door. He stood alone in the hallway for a long moment, heart beating harder than it should have. He didn't realize it then, but something small had shifted inside him, something he couldn't undo. He went into his apartment and leaned against the closed door. What was that? He didn't know. But he wanted more of it. The next morning was cold, a thin autumn fog clinging to the city streets. Dominic rushed down the stairwell with his backpack over one shoulder, trying to beat the morning traffic. He was already halfway across the lobby when he heard someone behind him whistle a short melody, the same one he had heard the night before. He turned around. Brady was sitting on the front steps outside the building, tuning his guitar. The fog curled around him like it belonged to him, like even the weather listened when he played. You heading to work? He asked, glancing up without pausing the tuning. Yeah, Dominic paused. You're up early for a musician. Brady shrugged. Sun rises, I rise. Inspiration doesn't really wait for a respectable hour. Dominic stepped down onto the sidewalk. I guess that makes two of us. My boss thinks I sleep under my desk. Brady smirked. Do you? Dominic snorted. No, but he wouldn't be shocked if I did. Brady tapped the guitar strings lightly, creating a soft ripple of sound. Sounds like you're married to your job. Dominic hesitated. Something like that. Brady looked up at him, really looked. That must get lonely. Dominic froze, caught off guard by how casually the truth had been spoken out loud. He tried to laugh it off, but the sound came out stiff. I stay busy. It's fine. Brady didn't push. He just nodded, his expression unreadable. Then his smile softened. Have a good day, Dominic. You too, Dominic said quietly. He walked away, but his chest felt tight, like Brady had played a note inside him he didn't want to hear. That night the music started again. Dominic was brushing his teeth when the first soft strum filtered through the wall. He turned off the faucet, stood there barefoot in the bathroom, listening. It was a slow piece, gentle at first, then building into something aching and unresolved. Dominic leaned against the sink, heart thudding in a way he didn't understand. The music felt like someone knocking on the door of a room inside him he kept locked. After 10 minutes, he couldn't take it anymore. He opened his apartment door. Brady sat on the floor against his own door across the hall, guitar resting on his knee, hair falling over his forehead. He looked up when Dominic stepped outside. Couldn't sleep, Brady asked softly. Dominic shook his head. You're playing something different tonight. Brady blinked slowly, like he wasn't sure if he should explain. It's something I'm working on. Not finished yet. It sounds emotional, Dominic said before he could stop himself. Brady chuckled under his breath. Everything I write is emotional. Dominic sat down on the floor across from him, not thinking, just moving. The hallway light hummed above them, flickering once. Play it again, Dominic said. Brady hesitated. Why? Dominic met his eyes. Because I want to hear it. Brady stared for a heartbeat longer. Then he shifted his guitar, adjusted the tuning peg, and played. And this time Dominic didn't try to pretend it didn't affect him. He watched the way Brady's fingers moved over the strings, the way he leaned into the music like it was the only place he knew how to breathe. Dominic felt the pull in his own chest, strong and frightening, like standing too close to a fire he wanted to touch anyway. When the song finished, Brady let his hands fall silent. What do you think? He asked quietly. Dominic swallowed. I think you're going to wreck people with that one. Brady laughed, but it was soft, unsure. Maybe that's the point. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then Brady shifted, leaning his head back against the wall. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you really open your door tonight? Dominic should have lied. Should have said he couldn't sleep, or needed silence, or was just being neighborly. But the hallway was dim, the music was still vibrating faintly in the air, and something about Brady made him want to tell the truth. Because I can't stop thinking about your music, Dominic said quietly, and I can't stop thinking about you. Brady didn't move, didn't even blink. His expression softened, losing its easy confidence. Dominic felt panic flare in his chest. He stood abruptly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make that weird. Forget I said anything. Brady rose too, setting the guitar gently on the floor. Dominic. Dominic froze halfway to his door. Brady stepped closer, close enough for Dominic to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. It wasn't weird, Brady said. Not to me. Dominic felt his breath shake. I don't do this. I don't usually say things like that. I know, Brady said, but you did, and I'm glad. Dominic swallowed hard. This is a bad idea. Brady gave a half smile that looked almost sad. Then why does it feel like a good one? Dominic couldn't answer. Not because he didn't know, but because the answer was too big. Brady stepped back, picking up his guitar. Good night, Dominic. Good night, Dominic whispered. He closed his door, leaned against it again, and realized his whole world had tilted. The next week was a quiet storm inside him. Every time Dominic walked down the hall, he listened for footsteps behind Brady's door. Every night, he waited for the music. Sometimes it came like rain, sometimes like fire. Every time it did, Dominic sat on his bed, palms pressed to his knees, trying to steady the ache inside him. He tried to distract himself with work, but even spreadsheets felt dangerous because a random lyric would float into his head, or he'd remember the way Brady looked at him when he said the words "not to me." He was losing control of something he had kept locked down for years. Friday night, he came home late, exhausted, shoulders tense from the week. He pushed open the lobby door and froze. Brady was sitting on the bottom stair, elbows resting on his knees, staring down at his hands. He looked different tonight. No smirk, no spark of mischief, just quiet. Dominic walked toward him slowly. "You okay?" Brady looked up, eyes glassy, as if he had been somewhere far away. "Yeah, just needed air." Dominic sat down beside him. "Want to talk about it?" Brady exhaled. "My band split up today." Dominic blinked. "What, why?" Brady shrugged helplessly. "Creative differences. Arguments. Bad timing. I don't know. Maybe it was falling apart long before today, and I was just refusing to see it." "I'm sorry," Dominic said softly. Brady nodded once. "It hurts more than I thought it would." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees again. Dominic watched the way his breath shook at the end, like he was trying not to fall apart. Without thinking, Dominic reached out and placed a hand on Brady's back. Brady froze. Then slowly, he leaned into the touch. Dominic felt something shift between them, a thread pulling tighter. A connection no longer subtle, no longer deniable. Brady whispered, "Thank you." Dominic murmured, "Anytime." Brady turned his head, eyes meeting Dom's. "You mean that?" Dominic nodded. "I do." Brady looked away, swallowing hard. "You make things quieter." Dominic frowned. "Quieter?" "Inside me," Brady said. "My head. My chest. Everything shuts up when you're around." Dominic's heart squeezed. That might be the most honest thing anyone had ever said to him. Brady stood suddenly. "Walk with me." "Where?" Brady shook his head. "Doesn't matter. Just come." Dominic hesitated for only a moment. Then he stood too. Together, they walked out into the cool night air. And Dominic didn't know it yet, but every step he took from that moment on would rewrite everything he thought he understood about himself. Dominic followed Brady down the quiet street, their footsteps echoing softly in the cool night air. The breeze carried the faint smell of rain, even though the sky was clear. Streetlights cast long shadows that stretched and merged across the pavement like they were guiding the two of them somewhere inevitable. They walked in silence for a few blocks before Brady finally spoke. "Do you ever feel like you're living the wrong version of your life?" he asked. Dominic kept his gaze forward. "What do you mean?" Brady shoved his hands into the pockets of his jacket. "Like there's some other version of you out there, taking chances, doing stupid things because they feel right, surrounded by people who get you. And you're stuck living this safer one, the edited one." Dominic exhaled slowly. "Yeah, I think about that a lot more than I should." Brady looked at him, surprised. "Really?" Dominic nodded. "I've spent most of my life choosing the version of me that wouldn't disappoint anyone. My parents, my coworkers, my friends. But that version never feels real. It just feels expected." Brady stopped walking. "And which version are you right now?" Dominic turned to him. "I don't know, but it feels different." Brady searched his face, something unreadable flickering behind his eyes. "Different good or different dangerous?" Dominic swallowed. "Both." Brady let out a soft laugh that sounded like relief and fear tangled together. He ran a hand through his hair. "Damn." Dominic frowned. "What?" Brady looked away, then back at him. "You don't know what you're doing to me." Dominic felt his pulse jump. Brady took a half step closer, hesitating, like he was fighting himself. Finally, he said quietly, "We should keep walking." So they did. They reached a small park tucked between two apartment complexes. A single lamppost lit the pathway, casting a pale glow over the swings. Brady walked toward the metal playset and sat on one of the swings, pushing off the ground lightly with the toe of his boot. Dominic sat on the swing beside him. Brady leaned back, letting the chains creak. "I used to come to parks like this after gigs. When the crowds got too loud. When I couldn't hear my own thoughts." Dominic smiled a little. "That's funny. I used to come to parks when my thoughts got too loud." Brady glanced at him sideways. "Maybe we were supposed to meet sooner." Dominic's breath caught. He looked down at his hands gripping the swing chains. "Maybe." They sat there for a moment, the breeze brushing past them. Brady kicked at the gravel under his feet. Dominic asked, "What are you going to do now that the band split up?" Brady shrugged. "I don't know. Thought about going solo. Thought about quitting music altogether. Thought about just disappearing for a while." Dominic turned sharply toward him. "Disappearing?" Brady gave a sad smile. "Some days it feels like it would be easier than trying again." Dominic felt something twist inside him. "You can't disappear." Brady raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" "Because," Dominic said, shifting to face him more directly, "you matter more than you think. Your music, it changes people. And you're not done yet. You're not even close." Brady stared at him. Something softened in his eyes, something vulnerable. "You believe that?" Dominic nodded. "Yeah, more than you know." Brady looked down, blinking hard like he needed a second to collect himself. Then he whispered, "Nobody has ever said that to me before." Dominic felt anger spark in his chest at the thought. Then they should have. Brady let out a shaky breath. "Dominic, if you keep saying things like that, I'm not going to be able to stay away from you." Dominic froze. Brady was still staring at the ground, jaw clenched, like the words had slipped out too honestly. The silence grew heavy, charged. Dominic finally whispered, "Maybe you don't have to." Brady slowly looked up, eyes wide, as if he had been waiting for that answer without realizing it. "You're going to make me fall for you," he said, "and you don't even know if you want that." Dominic took a step closer, gravel crunching under his shoes. Brady swallowed. "That's not a small thing to say." "No," Dominic said softly. "It isn't." Brady stood up from the swing. Dominic did too. They were close enough now that Dominic could see the slow rise and fall of Brady's chest, the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes kept flicking to Dominic's lips like gravity was pulling them there. Brady whispered, "Can I tell you something without you freaking out?" "Okay." Brady exhaled. "I've been trying to keep distance. Because you don't look like someone who wants chaos. And that's all I am most days. A walking storm." Dominic shook his head. "You're not chaos. You're passion." Brady blinked. "That's not what most people call it." "It's how I see it," Dominic said. Brady closed his eyes briefly, like the words hit him too deeply. When he opened them again, the fear was back, but so was something else. Something hopeful. "Dominic," he whispered, "I don't want to hurt you." "Then don't," Dominic said simply. Brady laughed once under his breath. "You make it sound easy." "Maybe it could be," Dominic said. Brady stared at him for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Walk me home." Dominic nodded. They walked side by side in silence. But it wasn't the uncomfortable kind. It was the kind that meant something was building, slowly, quietly, inevitably. When they reached their building, Brady hesitated at the front steps. Dominic asked, "You okay?" Brady nodded. "I just don't want this night to end." Dominic felt the same ache, sharp and sweet. "Then it doesn't have to. We live 10 steps away from each other." Brady smiled faintly. "Yeah, I guess we do." They went upstairs. The hallway was dim and silent, all the apartment doors shut. When they reached their doors across from each other, Brady lingered in the middle. He rubbed his thumb against the strap of his guitar case. "Dominic." "Yes." Brady took a breath. "Do you want to come in for a minute?" Dominic's heart slammed hard in his chest. But the look in Brady's eyes wasn't suggestive. It wasn't impulsive. It was something quieter, something asking for company more than anything else. Dominic nodded. "Yeah, I'd like that." Brady unlocked his door and stepped aside for Dominic to walk in. Brady's apartment was small but warm, filled with music sheets scattered on the coffee table, notebooks on the couch, a mug with dried paintbrush water next to the window. The place looked like someone lived fully in it, without apology. Dominic looked around. "This is nice." Brady snorted. "This is chaos." "It's you," Dominic said. "It suits you." Brady gave a shy smile. He set down his guitar case and walked toward the kitchen corner. "Want something to drink? Water? Tea? I think I have a beer in the fridge if you like warm disappointment." Dominic laughed. Water is fine. Brady poured 2 glasses and handed one to him. Dominic took it, noticing their fingers brushed lightly. The contact sent a small jolt up his arm. Brady sat on the couch and motioned for Dominic to join him. You don't have to stay long. I didn't want to be alone right now. Dominic sat beside him. I'm not in a rush. Brady looked down at his hands. You know, when the band fell apart today, I kept thinking about how empty my nights were going to feel. But then I remembered you were across the hall. I don't know what that means, but it made everything seem a little less terrifying. Dominic felt heat rise in his chest. I'm glad I could help with that. Brady hesitated, then said quietly, You help more than you know. For a few minutes they just sat there, sipping their drinks. The silence was peaceful, unlike the nights Dominic spent alone in his own apartment, where silence felt like a punishment. Brady suddenly got up. Come here. I want to show you something. Dominic set his glass down and followed him into a small room that served as Brady's studio. Guitars lined the wall, some electric, some acoustic. Sticky notes were everywhere with scribbled lyrics, circled phrases, crossed-out ideas. Brady walked to a desk and picked up a worn notebook. He handed it to Dominic. This is where I put things I never want anyone to read, Brady said. But tonight I want you to read something. Dominic hesitated. Are you sure? Brady nodded. Yeah. Dominic opened the notebook carefully. The handwriting was messy but emotional. Raw. He flipped until Brady tapped the page he wanted him to read. Dominic began to read the short paragraph. I write music because I'm afraid of being silent. In silence, the truth gets too loud. And the truth is that sometimes I feel like I'm one bad day away from disappearing. But lately, I heard a new sound in my head. Not music, not fear. Something steady, something warm. I don't know what it means yet, but it makes me want to stay. Dominic looked up, heart pounding. Brady was watching him with a vulnerability Dominic had never seen before. This is beautiful, Dominic whispered. It's messy, Brady muttered. It's honest. Brady exhaled shakily. It's about you. Dominic felt the room tilt. Me. Brady nodded slowly. The night you opened your door. The way you listened. The way you looked at me like I wasn't too much. Like I wasn't broken. Something changed in me. Dominic stepped closer. Brady looked down like he was bracing for impact. Dominic gently closed the notebook. You're not broken. Brady laughed weakly. I feel like it. Dominic shook his head. No, you feel deeply. That's not broken. That's brave. Brady looked up, eyes glossy. I don't know how to do this. Whatever this is, I don't know how to be good at it. Dominic stepped even closer. You don't have to be good at it. Just be real. Brady swallowed. Dominic. Dominic whispered, I'm right here. Brady closed the distance slowly, giving Dominic time to pull away. Dominic didn't. He held his breath as Brady's forehead gently touched his. Just that. Just the soft press of skin to skin. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just connection. Brady breathed out shakily, and Dominic felt it brush his lips. Dominic whispered, This doesn't have to be anything we're not ready for. Brady nodded. I know. I just needed to feel you close. Dominic closed his eyes. Me too. They stood like that for a long moment, foreheads touching, breathing the same slow rhythm, like two lonely frequencies finally tuning into each other. Then Brady pulled back slightly, clearing his throat. I should probably let you sleep. It's late. Dominic smiled a little. I don't mind. Brady laughed softly. I know, but still. Dominic nodded reluctantly. Okay. They walked back to the living room. Brady opened the door for him. Dominic stepped into the hallway, but paused. He turned. Will you be okay tonight? Brady leaned against the doorway. I think so. If not, I know where to find you. Dominic felt warmth spread through him. Good night, Brady. Good night, Dominic. Dominic walked to his door, opened it, then turned again. Brady was still there, watching him with a look that felt like gravity. Dominic whispered, "I'm glad you didn't disappear today." Brady's voice was soft. "Me too." Dominic went inside and closed the door gently. He stood there, heart racing, feeling more alive than he had in years. He didn't know where this was going, but he knew he wanted to follow it. He wanted to follow Brady. The next morning, Dominic woke earlier than usual. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the way Brady had leaned his forehead against his, the quiet tremble in his breath, the way he had admitted things nobody else had ever been allowed to hear. Dominic should have been nervous, should have questioned everything, should have built a wall around himself again. But instead, he felt something else. Hope. A strange, warm kind of hope that made his chest feel lighter than it had in years. He showered quickly, dressed, grabbed his bag, and stepped into the hallway. For a moment, he hesitated, wondering if Brady was awake, wondering if last night had changed anything or if it had simply been a moment carved out of vulnerability and exhaustion. As he locked his door, Brady's door opened across the hall. Dominic's breath caught. Brady stood there, hair a mess, eyes tired but soft. He wore a faded t-shirt and loose sweats, looking more like a sleepy dream than the rebel musician Dominic had first met. "Morning," Brady said, rubbing the back of his neck. "You heading to work?" "Yeah," Dominic said. "You look like you haven't slept." Brady gave a small shrug. "I slept some. My head was just loud." Dominic took a slow breath. "And did it get quieter?" Brady met his eyes. "When you stepped outside just now, yeah?" "It did." Dominic felt heat settle low in his stomach. "You could have knocked on my door, Brady." Brady looked away, cheeks faintly pink. "I didn't want to bother you." "You wouldn't have." Brady gave a small smile, the shy kind that was still new to Dominic. "Next time I will." Dominic nodded. "Good." They stood there for a moment, neither seeming to want to leave. Finally, Brady leaned against the doorframe and asked, "You want coffee before you go?" Dominic blinked. "Coffee?" Brady nodded toward his kitchen. "I make terrible coffee, but I can offer emotional support while we drink it." Dominic laughed. "I wish I could, but I really have to go. Big meeting today." Brady nodded, though something like disappointment flickered briefly across his face. "Okay, then maybe tonight if you're free." Dominic swallowed. "Yeah, tonight sounds good." Brady brightened just enough to send a warm ache through Dominic's chest. "Have a good day, Dominic." Dominic hesitated. Then he said gently, "If your head gets loud again, you know where I am." Brady nodded. "I know." Dominic turned and headed downstairs, but halfway to the lobby he realized he was smiling. Actually smiling. He couldn't remember the last time a morning felt this good. Work should have distracted him. It usually did. But today his mind slipped constantly back toward the hallway, the playset in the park, the gentle press of Brady's forehead against his. He knew he was falling. That was the problem. That was also the reason he couldn't stop thinking about him. During his lunch break, he took out his phone and stared at it for a full minute before finally typing out a message. "Thinking about you. Hope you're holding up." He hovered over the send button. Then he hit it. It felt like stepping into cold water. Bracing. Dangerous. Alive. Brady responded less than 30 seconds later. "I am now." Dominic closed his eyes. This was real. This was happening. And the gravity pulling him toward Brady was getting stronger by the hour. When Dominic got home that evening, the hallway smelled faintly like coffee and warm cinnamon. Brady's apartment door was slightly open, just an inch, like he had left it that way on purpose. Dominic swallowed, stepped inside the hall fully, and gently knocked on the cracked door. Brady called out, "It's open." Dominic pushed the door and walked inside. Brady was sitting on the floor surrounded by sheet music, legs crossed, tapping a pencil against his knee in restless rhythm. He looked up when he saw Dominic, and his whole expression softened. "Hey," Brady said quietly. "You made it." Dominic set his bag down by the door. "Wouldn't miss it." Brady stood up, brushing invisible dust from his jeans. "I ordered food. I didn't know what you liked, so I kind of panicked and got 3 different kinds of takeout." Dominic smiled. "That's perfect." Brady grinned, relieved. "Good. I was worried you'd think I was weird." Dominic stepped closer. "I don't think you're weird." Brady raised an eyebrow. "Not even a little." Dominic shook his head. "I think you're honest." Brady's face softened again in that way Dominic was quickly becoming addicted to. "That's worse," he whispered. "Honesty scares people more than weird ever could." Dominic swallowed. "It doesn't scare me." Brady held his gaze, searching for cracks, maybe expecting Dominic to pull away. But Dominic didn't. Not this time. Brady finally motioned toward the small table where the food was spread out. "Eat with me." Dominic nodded. "Yeah, of course." They sat cross-legged on the floor, opening containers of noodles, rice, and soup. For a few minutes they ate in comfortable silence, the kind that felt less like emptiness and more like 2 people settling into each other's presence. Brady finally said, "So your day? Did you survive the big meeting?" Dominic groaned. "Barely. My boss kept asking me to pitch the same idea 5 different ways." Brady smirked. "Sounds exhausting." "It was, but I kept checking my phone like an idiot." Brady paused, chopsticks halfway to his mouth. "Why?" Dominic stopped eating. "Because your message made my day better." Brady's cheeks flushed slightly, and he looked down at his food. "Dominic, you can't just say things like that out of nowhere." "Why not?" "Because I don't know what to do with it," Brady admitted. "Nobody talks to me like that. Nobody sees me like you do. And I feel like if I'm not careful, you're going to become the one thing I can't lose." Dominic set his food down. "Brady." Brady shook his head. "Sorry, I'm talking too much again." Dominic reached out and gently touched Brady's wrist. "I don't want you to stop talking." Brady swallowed hard, his breath catching. He turned his hand slightly, letting their fingers brush. Dominic didn't pull away. Brady whispered, "You don't know how good it feels just to have someone sit with me like this." Dominic scooted a little closer. "Then I'll sit with you, as long as you need." Brady looked up sharply, emotion flickering in his eyes. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I mean everything I say to you." Silence fell. Heavy, warm, charged. Slowly, Brady's hand slid fully into Dominic's. Their fingers intertwined naturally, almost like they had been reaching for each other for a long time without knowing it. Dominic's breath hitched. Brady whispered, "Dominic, can I tell you something? Always." Brady squeezed his hand gently. "I'm scared, not of you, but of how much I already care." Dominic felt the confession land deep in his chest, like something precious. "I'm scared too," he said softly, "but I still want to be here." Brady exhaled shakily and leaned his shoulder against Dominic's. It was small, simple, but it felt like the start of something neither of them could pretend away anymore. They stayed like that for a long time, shoulder to shoulder, fingers intertwined, as the city hummed softly outside the window. Finally, Brady whispered, "Dominic." "Yeah." Brady turned his head, just slightly. "You know I'm not good at slow." Dominic smiled. "Then we go at whatever pace feels right." Brady leaned in just a bit closer. "And what pace feels right tonight?" Dominic swallowed. "This. Just this." Brady nodded. "Okay, then this is where we stay." And they did. They stayed close. They stayed quiet. They stayed honest. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't a declaration. It was an understanding. A beginning. And neither of them wanted to let go.